Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion, and I apologize. Had a couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all off due to some physicals that were going on from my previous career in sports, and things all went pretty well. And here I am back in the saddle. And speaking of back in the saddle, the giddy up, the craziness of this market, it just continues. You look at yesterday, and we started off the day down about 100 points on the Dow. Not huge, doesn't put a lot of fear into a lot of people, but we start chopping back, we get back, it's a choppy market. We start to find ourselves off of this nice rally. But then in the final hour, the selling begins. And the selling was absolutely incredible. As a matter of fact, dropping about 400 points to the downside, actually finished the day. We closed down about 380 points on the Dow. So a very, very sharp turn of a similar type of movement, about 1%, and the same thing happening with the NASDAQ. NASDAQ had some moves, it rallied, it got choppy, it started to sell off that final hour once again and finished down about 130 points yesterday. So with that whiplash that everybody was feeling yesterday, we finally see the volatility index start to creep a little bit higher. We've been talking about how we were stuck down in those teens, 16, 17, maybe stretching to 18, and then really kind of pulling back almost immediately. And we've been over 20, but we've barely breached 20 and stayed over 20 for even minutes, it seems like at times. But yesterday, late in the day, we also had a nice big spike in the volatility index. As a matter of fact, got up there over 20, and we'll see how long the duration of that's going to be. By the way, the volumes, when you look at Monday, 38 million contracts. I look back to Tuesday, nearly 40 million contracts, 39.8 million if you want to hold me to it. So nearly 40 million contracts. Yesterday, 37.5 million contracts. Volumes continue to be extremely strong across the board, and it's getting more and more consistently strong and staying very, very much, call it between 35 million and 40 million, and then sometimes even breaching over that 40 million mark. So sectors that were really under pressure, well, when you look at crude underneath 65, now we're talking about crude's had this volatile movement as well. Crude pulling back under 65, the energy space was down early, down well over 1%. But with that harsh selling that we had seen, the energy space was the leader to the downside, down about 2.5% yesterday. Staples, also pretty interesting to see a little bit of pressure across just about every sector you can pick out. You're going to see some pressure on the markets when you see a market day that's down about 400 points. The 10-year, it actually was hanging in there pretty decent, 127, not terrible, not that far off of where it had rallied back up to. Bitcoin, just talking about that, holding in that range, call it about 45,000 in that range where Bitcoin finds itself. It's been a little higher, a little lower, but right in that particular area, it seems like it seems to be finding a bit of a home. We'll see how long that lasts as well. Now, not everything yesterday was just a complete sell-off. So I wanted to highlight a couple of the areas of the market where we didn't see just absolute selling pressure that was just pressuring upon the markets. Lowe's up about 9%. It was up over 11%, somewhere between 9 and 10% yesterday. Very, very nice day. A lot of earnings being the driver for some of these names. But you also look at TJ Maxx. TJ Maxx had a great day. TJX up about 5.5%. Tesla up about 3.5% yesterday as well. So not everything was getting sold off. As a matter of fact, some of the Chinese names trading pretty well also. When you look at Baidu, you look at JD, you look at PDD, you look at some of these names, really nice move. And by the way, Salesforce, off of what was an analyst call and talking about the future for Salesforce and how they are very, very well positioned, putting up a price target extremely high relative to where the stock is right now, really said a lot. And it seemed that people were buying into this because a really nice day also for Salesforce, having a monstrous day in a really, really bad end of the day for the market. So today we get these jobless claims. They hit a new pandemic low. But people are also, that's one focus, and the other focus seemed to have been, well, what about taper? How fast is this going to happen, this whole process? And people start getting concerned. The Fed, we look over in the market, in the early trading, in the pre-market, we're down about 300 points on the Dow. We look over at the NASDAQ, down about 100 points. Literally, by the time we open the markets, we're only down 150. So we've cut that in half for the Dow. Still down about 60 points for the NASDAQ. we just started marching on, and just minutes ago, 15 minutes ago or less, we actually got all the way into the green with the Dow. So then we started to see, again, another nice sharp move to the downside, and the push. Last I looked, as a matter of fact, the markets were trading down about 70 points. I'm taking a brief look now. Now it's down 160 points. It just shows you what kind of level of volatility we are really seeing here. Speaking of volatility, we did jump. We didn't just hold over 20. We have jumped over 20, over 21, over 23. And as a matter of fact, we were just talking, Glenn and I were just talking about this. 2470, 2480, somewhere in that range was the highest, at least, that we had seen. And then we got a little bit of a pullback back towards that 21 level. Obviously, if the markets are moved as much as they have from green down to 150, my guess would be we are seeing the markets in the S&P, or excuse me, in the VIX, starting to creep back up again. So obviously a lot of volatility, and we are finding ourselves holding above this 20 a little bit longer than we have when we've seen some of these moves in the past. We'll see how it plays out for the rest of the day. The areas of the market, once again, crude under some pressure. I mentioned yesterday the pressure was that we were under 65. Today, under 64. You find yourself in the 63, 63 and a half, and a lot of pressure being put on the energy space, leading once again. Early on, it was down about 1.25%, very similar to yesterday. Now, as a matter of fact, on certain moments, I'm seeing it down about 2.5%. Materials had made a little comeback. I looked over at the financials, had made a little bit of a comeback from down about 0.5% to down about flat, call it. And we actually watched tech go from down to only about 0.25% or so, actually into the green. But with this bit of movement that we are seeing now, just in the last 5 or 6 minutes, obviously some of these numbers are probably changing dramatically. In the energy space, I will highlight a couple of the names. When I talk about those beta names and the moves that we have had to the upside in energy, we've always emphasized, hey, look, beta works in both directions. It's not just that movement to the upside. It also moves at that pace to the downside. And a lot of those higher beta names, those names that are in the XOP, for instance, but Occidental and Devon and some of these names, Phillips 66, we look across and we see some of these names under some pretty significant pressure. We also seen some pressure in Freeport Mac, which was down significantly today, early on, down about 4%. US Steel was down about 3%. Financials, when I looked, I did see some pressure, not terrible, but 1% or thereabouts. When I looked at Goldman and JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Morgan Stanley and some of those names, under a little bit of pressure, but nothing huge at the time that I last looked. Now, Chinese names, they flipped lower. That's obviously an emphasis that you'll see represented by the NASDAQ with many of those various names, Baidu and JD and some of those types of names. Anyway, let's hit some unusual, and then we're going to get out of here. But it's good to be back with you guys on the take. Netflix. We're sitting there trading right around $529.50. We had a nice big buyer, 8,300 of the August 530s. They're buying calls right at the price where the stock was trading and buying 8,300 of these calls. These calls started off at $1.70. They went all the way up to about $3.50. The stock doesn't obviously have to move all that much. Stock is right there where they're buying these, but that premium, and let's keep in mind, this is short term. This is Thursday, and these expire tomorrow. These are not August 27th. These are August expiring options. That is tomorrow. So just be understanding of what the time frame is for these and what kind of a move is expected. Any kind of move to the upside, these certainly have an opportunity to start moving to the upside pretty rapidly. I got a specialty chemical company, ESI, Element Solutions. Haven't seen this name a whole lot hitting on a heat seeker in a very long period of time. But today, with the stock trading right around, call it 22 3/4, we had a buyer of 4,700. Give it a little time this time. 4,700 of September. Yeah, I said September. So we're getting out of the month of August. The September 25 strike calls, 18 cents up to 25 cents. Fairly inexpensive, but looking for a pretty substantial move, given the stock where it is right now, 22.75. And got to get up and move and start running up and through that 25 level. It's got a little bit of time on their hands, so that one will have you a little bit more time than obviously we're looking at that Netflix, which is giving you today and tomorrow. That's it. So understand the discipline that you're going to have if you have any of these on your radar. Folks, have a great day of trading. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the take. I will be on the 5 o'clock show tonight as well for Fast Money. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.